Building muscle might be the most controversial topic in health and fitness, surrounded by a huge amount of myths and bro science. In this chapter, we will dwell deeper into the physiology and actual science of building muscle. It is an important part of any healthy transformation and important to know for anyone. But first, why do we need to build muscle? Let's get the obvious why out of the way first. From media and fitness culture, one might have the idea that muscle is for athletes and fitness models or gym junkie bodybuilders. This couldn't be further from the truth. The sad reality is that the average person's muscle mass is lower than it has ever been in history due to passive lifestyle, overconsumption of carbohydrates, and unhealthy lifestyle. Lowered muscle mass is considered one of the biggest risk factors of metabolic syndrome spectrum diseases, not to mention the lower quality of life. The problem, and at the same time the solution, is that the human body is evolved to be physically active. Our metabolism and muscle tissue depends on us moving around. A good example is a broken bone and cast on the limb for 30+ days. The muscles around the broken bone will atrophy considerably in 1 to 2 months. When the cast is taken off and the limb is used again, muscles will grow back in the same time. The same principle applies to the whole human body. It atrophies when it's inactive. Without going too deep into the physiology, lowered muscle mass causes these 6 issues, amongst other things: lowered metabolic rate or calories burnt daily, risk of risen blood sugar and cholesterol levels, since the muscle tissue is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body, consuming large portions of energy from food. Muscle and joint pains. The less supporting muscle there is, the harder it is for the body to move itself around without wearing it down. Lowered muscle mass leads to osteoarthritis much earlier than normal. Risk of injuries. Either you work a physical job like an orderly at a nursing home or in an office, the less supporting muscle mass you have, the bigger the chances that an unexpected move tears or breaks something in the body. Lowered muscle mass can greatly affect one's physical performance, either in a low-intensity setting or high. Lowered muscle mass causes hormonal imbalances that themselves raise the risk of accumulation of visceral and middle section fat. So you see that muscle tissue isn't nice to have for good looks, but an absolute necessity. One can't have too much muscle mass. Don't fall for the myth caused by steroid-abusing bodybuilders that strength training automatically causes you to accumulate tons of pounds of muscle. Muscle mass actually increases very slowly. For younger people starting with strength training and correct nutrition, it can be up to 15 pounds of muscle gain per year, but for older folks and more advanced exercisers, it is more like 5 pounds per year. Unfortunately, most people never even get close to those numbers because their workout and nutrition regimen don't support muscle building at all. Just going through the motions and eating close to our right doesn't help much. So let's find out how to cause muscle growth. There are many things that cause muscle growth, but there are 2 main principles without which you can't succeed. 1. Overexerting the muscle. 2. Feeding the muscle. Since those are the most important principles, they're also the most common mistakes. Let's go over both of those in more detail. Overexerting the muscle means that we have to signal to the muscle that it needs to adapt to overexertion, so the next time it has to overexert itself, it will be much easier. It needs 90% plus exertion level. If the muscle doesn't get the feeling that it's overexerting, it doesn't get the stimulus to adapt and grow. Most exercisers stay in the 50 to 80% range, meaning, for example, that when they do 10 squats, they stop when they actually could have done 14 through 20 reps. Make no mistake, training in the 50 to 80% is a good thing in itself, and in many situations it's necessary. For example, physical therapy. It improves the metabolism of the muscle, but what it doesn't do is give the muscle a signal that it needs to grow. Let's say in the example above, when one goes over the 90% line, or 14 reps, then the muscle starts to get microscopic tears in them. After the final rep, when the muscles hurt and feel hot, there are millions of little tears throughout the muscle. This might sound counterintuitive, but it is an absolute necessity to make the muscles grow. At this stage, we come to the second important principle. The muscle damage itself doesn't grow, but temporarily weakens the muscle. The muscle starts to grow after the workout, mostly the following night when you're sleeping, when your growth hormone levels are highest. At this point, our body does all it can to fix the tears and overcompensate the curing process by growing muscle cells to withstand the future overexertion better. But for that, it needs new materials to replace the damaged tissue. It needs protein to replace the muscle cells, and it needs carbohydrates to replace the glycogen and ATP, fast energy source in the cell's stores. Feeding your body necessary nutrients after the physical exertion is the second principle. One could overexert the muscles repeatedly, but they would never fully heal and grow without proper nutrition. The nutrition part is mostly covered in the nutrition module, where for now, if you aren't an advanced exerciser, then you shouldn't worry too much about perfecting the workout nutrition timing. It is enough that your overall nutrition is in good shape. We will go over the timing more in the strength training plan chapter. The third principle is actually the subcategory of the first principle. For the muscle to grow, it has to be in the adaptation phase all the time. When the muscle adapts to the weight in use, it doesn't have any more stimuli to grow. So the overexertion has to be repeated and continuous. In other words, progressive. This is another most often made mistake by exercisers. They work out with the same intensity year after year. And it is totally fine. But if your goal is maximizing the effect of the workout in growing muscle tissue, then this won't help you after a certain point. But at the same time, as we discussed, the muscle needs recovery time to grow. So it isn't smart to overexert the muscle too often. To bring this all together, building muscle should be one of your priorities, whether you are losing weight, getting in shape, or just want to feel better. To do this, you must overexert the muscle over the 90% line and feed it enough quality protein and carbohydrates. We'll go into more detail on how to actually create this progressive strength training program to fit your own goals in the next chapter.